Dreammakers podcast. I am so excited you're here. Today's episode is a little bit of a different one. It's actually a video that I recorded 8 months ago when this little cutie with me was 1 week old. Can you say hi, Zoey? Say hi to all of our YouTube watchers. We're working on it. Anyways, I did a live on Instagram sharing my birth story with her because I wasn't podcasting at the time. And I was like, I really need to share this experience. And then today, Zoey is 8 months old. And as I was thinking about that, I was like, oh my gosh, I never shared my birth story with her here on the podcast. And if you are a podcast listener, then you were here in episode 9 and episode 22 when I shared with you guys my journey with postpartum depression and PTSD. And you guys, I told you there bawling that if I ever found a way out of it, I would share it with you. And you guys have also been there when I shared my hypnotherapist Tina when she came in on episode 89, and I shared with you how I got out of postpartum depression and how different my life has looked. But I have not shared with you guys almost like the crowning moment, the where I told you guys about the birth story of Zoey and if I am dealing with postpartum depression now. So I wanted to share this episode with you guys because you guys have been there through it all and you have seen the beginning, the during, and the after. And so I wanted to tell you guys about her birth story. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to dive into this video that I recorded 8 months ago on an Instagram live. And then at the very end, I'm going to share with you guys our 8-month update of where we are now. Now, if you are listening to this and it resonates with you and you're like, oh my gosh, I think I have postpartum depression or PTSD, I want to let you know that you are not alone. That was one thing I felt the whole time was like, I'm alone. Nobody knows what I'm going through. And that's just not true. And so I hope that by listening to this episode, if this is you and you're like, wow, I'm there right now, I hope this episode will give you hope, realize that you're not alone, and then it will also help you realize that there are solutions out there for you. Now, it might be a journey. Not everybody's solutions look the same. I know mine was hypnotherapy. For other people, it's talk therapy. For other people, it's medication. For other people, it's changing their diet or looking at their hormones. So there's tons of different ways to overcome postpartum depression. So I hope this episode, as you're listening to it, if this is you, I hope it gives you hope and I hope it makes you happy. But also if this is not you and you listen to it, I hope that as you find out of friends who have postpartum depression, that you will think of this episode and that you will share it with them so that they can get the help and peace that they need. So girl, let's get started. I am so excited to do this live for you guys. I've been wanting to do this live ever since I knew I was pregnant because hopefully you guys can hear me okay with the hiccups. You sound like a little squeaky toy. You do. Because if you guys have been following my journey, you know how much pregnancy trauma, pregnancy depression has been sadly a huge part of my journey as a mom. And so I was so excited after going through all these steps that I'm going to talk about today. And I was like, I feel like this pregnancy is going to be so much different. And I can't wait to share after I've had the baby, like what that looks like. And I even want to do like a 6-month checkup with you guys too, to be like, has the depression stayed away? Has the trauma stayed away? So anyways, I'm so excited. I just pray that this helps somebody because I'm like, man, I wish I had something like this back when I started my journey. So I hope this helps you guys, or helps at least one person, or if it doesn't help you, to share it with somebody who it might. And I just hope too that God will direct me with my voice, that I won't forget anything, that I'll remember all the parts that I wanted to share with you guys, and that I answer all of your questions. So feel free to ask questions. There's this little question box at the bottom right there that you guys can type questions in. That might be easier than putting it in the thread. I don't know. We'll see. All right. So let's get started. I hope, here's another thing. I hope I don't cry because I know I will. So just excuse the tears. They're just probably going to come because it's been a very emotional journey and I just had a baby. So my hormones are like, woo. But yeah, so before we start with Zoey's birth story, we've got to like take it back to what happened before. So with my very first child, Brooklyn, she is 8 years old. And that was, without going into too much detail, that was an extremely traumatic birth. We had to get her out in one push or else it would be emergency C-section.
She was 9 pounds, 2 ounces, and 24 inches long. So I was just starting to dilate. So to pull out a 9-pound baby, with not reaching, 10 dilation, and anyways, it was intense. And then my epidural didn't work. And so I felt everything. They got her out in one push. I tore to the max that you can tear, and I felt it all. And my body went into shock, and I just shook violently for like 6 to 7 hours. I thought I was going to die. They rushed her off she had swallowed so many liquid that they were like pumping out vials and vials of fluid out of her. So I thought I was dying. I thought my baby was dying. And it was just a very traumatic experience. When I first started holding Brooklyn for the first time, I just remember thinking, aren't I supposed to feel something? Like, here's this adorable bundle from heaven, and I felt no connection to her. I felt no, like, oh, like, you're so cute. Nothing. It was like I couldn't connect with her at all. And that continued and continued and continued. And I had never heard of postpartum depression before. I didn't know it was a thing. I didn't even know what to ask. And my doctor, he tells me that I have RHF, resting happy face. So even though I'm like sad and dying inside, I still, to the world, I guess, look very happy. And so no one could tell. And I didn't know even how to describe what I was going through, because I thought that this was normal. Like, is this what everyone experiences? Anyways, the height of my postpartum depression is when we moved to California, and we lived on the second floor. And I remember holding my baby. She was 6 months old, and I went out to the balcony, and we were watching the birds, playing the bird bath, and it was such a beautiful day. And I just had the thoughts, what if I just throw her off? What if right now I just throw her off the balcony? Maybe I could go back to my happy self. And as soon as I thought that, oh my gosh, I scared myself, right? Like, who thinks like that? Who has thoughts like that? And so I rush inside. I put her in her crib in her bedroom, and she was crying. And I went down into the living room, sank against the wall, and just buried my head in my hands, and just cried and cried and cried. And the thoughts that kept coming was, I can't tell anyone, or they're going to take my baby. I can't tell a soul, or else they're gonna take her away. Will my husband even want to be married to me anymore? Like, all of these thoughts. And so I didn't tell anyone. I didn't tell my husband. I didn't tell my mother. No one knew. And because I was so terrified of those thoughts that I had had. Anyways, fast forward, I had my son Jace 17 months later. That was also a traumatic birth. He was born a preemie. I couldn't even see him for the first 24 hours of his life. I lost so much blood. I was getting scheduled for a blood transfusion. He was in the NICU for 2 weeks. Like, it was horrible. Another very traumatic. And when I finally did get to see him, once again, could not connect, did not feel connected to this child, and just kept going on this depression and PTSD and had no idea what it was. And then one of you guys asked the question, how did you have the courage to keep having children? And I tell you what, there was no courage in this. I had these 2 kids. I was deep in depression and trauma, and we had a surprise baby. And everyone's like, how did you have a surprise baby? Don't you know how babies have? And I'm like, yes, but when you're using all the protection and all the things and the baby's still born, like, that's a surprise. So my third child was that 1%, like, how in the world were you born type of kid. And when I found out I was pregnant, I went through, I think, 10 pregnancies tests. It was positive, and I was like, no. And I was chucking them in the garbage, doing the next one, and it was positive, and I was like, no. I went through all 10, and I just sat in the bathroom and just cried. And I cried for the first 6-7 months that I was pregnant with her. I was so devastated because I didn't know how I could do a third kid. So my 3 oldest kids were born in the span of 2.5 years. So in 2.5 years, I had 3 children, and super, super depressed. So that is kind of like the backstory of what happened. And, oh, I forgot to say the height of my trauma. So you guys know the height of my depression was wanting to throw my daughter over the balcony. The height of my trauma was that I could not be around pregnant people, which is really hard when you are from a Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints family. Some people know us as Mormons. Mormons have big families. So my husband's side of the family was having births like crazy. You go to church and everyone's pregnant. And when I would be around a pregnant person, I would start having an anxiety and a panic attack. I could not be around pregnant people. There was one of my friends who told me she was pregnant, and I literally stepped back and I started having to like deep breath. And she's like, I'm not contagious. And I was like, I know you're not contagious. But it was so hard for me to even be around pregnant people. And so it was almost like, see you in 9 months, peace out. Like I could not be around them. And that was the height of my trauma, not even being able to be around people or even be able to go to church and not have a panic attack. It was so horrible and so bad. And so, oh my gosh, it was so scary. And 3 years ago, my family and I went to Europe to go visit my parents because they were living out there. And I don't know what it was, but I just remember being in Europe, being in Germany. Germany, that's where I grew up. I grew up military. I moved to the States when I was 13. No place has ever felt like home. And when I got off the plane to Germany, it was like the first time in my life I felt like I was home. It was such an amazing feeling. And while I was there at home, feeling at home, I felt the presence of another girl that needed to join our family. And I was like, oh, heck no. Like, I'm still depressed. I'm still having anxiety and panic attacks. I still have full-fledged trauma. Like, there is no way I can get pregnant and bring another soul into this family when I can barely function as a mom right now to the 3 kids I already have. So sad. Crying because I've always wanted to be that person that if God is like, Stephanie, I need you to do this, I'm like, yes, sir. Like, let's jump on it, And so to have these thoughts and in my prayers, have these thoughts and be like, God, nope, can't do it. No. Was so hard for me. I felt like I was a bad Christian. I felt like I was a bad woman, a bad mother, all of these things. And I just remember praying and being like, if you want me to bring more souls into our family, like I need help. I can barely function. Fast forward a year, and this is where the story starts getting so good, and God is so good because fast forward a year later, I've had postpartum depression and trauma now for 7 years. Right? At that time it was 6, so 6.5 years. That is a long time. And I know people have been dealing with this even longer than that. And I met this lady. I was not even going to go to this event. And I had the thoughts, you just need to go. And at this event, I met this lady named Tina. I have a whole podcast episode with her on it. And I wish I could remember the episode number. But she's a hypnotherapist. And she wanted to have, I was a photographer at the time. And she's like, Stephanie, I would love new photos for my business, but I want you to only take photos if you know exactly what I do. So can you please do, a session with me? Guys, I was so scared. I was like, am I going to do this hypnotherapy session? And like every time after that in public, if someone claps, I like quack like a duck or bark like a dog. Like I was terrified to do this hypnotherapy session. But I'm also an Enneagram 7, so trying anything new is always fun. So it's like, okay, so I'm like terrified and excited all at the same time. So I go to her house to do this hypnotherapy session, realize that that's not what hypnotherapy is. She's not going to put you under, find out all your deep secrets, like I have any. She's not going to like make you do things in public when something happens. But what it does is it's a meditation that gets you to be able to access your subconscious. And like 90% of our day is run by our subconscious. And so you're just able to go back and reprogram thoughts because our brain is crazy. And so when something happens, our brain's like, oh, this must be the reason why. And so when you're in that meditated state, you're able to look at it and be like, oh, I could see why my brain would connect those dots, but actually that's not true. Let's connect it here. And then as you go forward throughout your life, you have rewired your subconscious, and so you're able to go about your day. Anyways, super crazy. So I did one session and it was great. I did a second session, and after my second session that week one of my friends told me she was pregnant. And guys, I was able to stay in the conversation. No panic attack, no anxiety attack. Like, I was able to actually be happy for her and talk and stay with her. And I was floored because I hadn't been able to do that in so long. And so I called Tina and I'm like, it's working. I'm coming back. And so I went back to Tina to do another session with her. And by session 4, I remember leaving her place. And as I was hopping into my car going, I could think about being pregnant. Like, I don't know if I'm ready now, but I could think about it. And that was a crazy change as well, to even be able to entertain the thought of having another kid. And then by the 6th session, I realized that I was happy, like really happy. I could be a mom to my kids who were now ages 7, almost 6, and 4.5, and I could enjoy them. And it makes me so sad to think that it took me almost 7 years to enjoy being with my kids or enjoy being a mom. But I just am so grateful that it wasn't forever, you know? And so I just remember being so happy and being able to sit and read with my kids and actually enjoy it. I was able to laugh at their jokes that they were doing. I was able to be present with them. And that had never happened before. Oh, I told you guys I was going to cry. Oh, I'm so sorry. A few months later, we moved up to Idaho, and my husband and I had decided that we were going to start trying to have another girl, or have a baby. We didn't know it was going to be a girl, but try to have another baby. And we got pregnant in March this year. And guys, the whole time when I found out I was pregnant, there's that voice in the back of your head that is like, are you going to go back? Are you going to be depressed again? Is this trauma going to happen again? Are you going to be okay? But I was happy. And guys, her pregnancy sucked. I have always, oh, you're crying with me? Oh, I'm so glad. I'm not alone. My 3 pregnancies before the pregnancy was easy. The labor and delivery, horrific. But this one, my pregnancy sucked. I was sick the entire 9 months. If you guys notice that you're like, wow, she disappeared off Instagram and off the face of the earth and hasn't recorded a podcast in forever. It's because I literally couldn't. I could not. I was so sick. I couldn't drink water because it tasted gross. I couldn't eat vegetables. Like the weirdest pregnancy, and I was sick the entire 9 months. I guess 8.5 because she was born 2 weeks early. Hallelujah. It was horrible. But I was happy the whole time, like really happy. And I know it's because I was able to do that postpartum, that hypnotherapy with Tina and be able to work through my postpartum depression and my PTSD. And so those weren't a part of my story anymore. It wasn't something that I was carrying anymore. And so even though the pregnancy sucked, I was able to do it and be present as a pregnant mom. And I homeschool my 3 kids, and I was able to have enough energy to homeschool for an hour and then sleep and rest for the rest of the day. But I was happy. And I was so nervous though about going into birth because I'm like, maybe this is the tipping point, right? Maybe this is where the trauma comes back or the depression comes back. And now getting into her story, I guess, is the pregnancy sucked. And then, what was it? Not this past Sunday, but the Sunday before, I went into labor. Now, I have C-sections because my second kid, my son, I had complete placenta previa with him. So we had to do a C-section 4 weeks early and get him out. And the reason why I lost so much blood was because of my placenta was covering the hole and also where they needed to cut through to pull baby out. And so I lost a lot of blood with that C-section. And because he was born 4 weeks early, his lungs weren't developed yet. And so he had to go into the NICU, and I lost so much blood that I couldn't even sit in a wheelchair to go see him. It was crazy. And so He was 8 pounds though. Biggest preemie ever. 8 pounds, 22 inches long. Anyways, so after that, when I got pregnant with my third kid, I have really big babies. He should have been 12 pounds if he was born on time. So the doctors were just scared because I had gotten pregnant so quickly, that because of my history with really big babies, that if I tried to do a VBAC, the likelihood of my seam popping was pretty high. And so they're like, oh, we feel better if we just do a C-section. And I prayed about it and it felt good. And so because I have two, now every child after that has to be C-section. So I start going into labor 2 weeks ago, and I'm like, wait a minute. The joy of having a C-section is that you don't have to go into labor. What is happening? And we rushed to the hospital. I live an hour away from the hospital because we live in the middle of nowhere. And we drove to the hospital, and my contractions were every 40 seconds to a minute apart. And I got there, and they were like, we don't want you to have your baby 3 weeks early, so let us give you some shots and see if it slows down the labor. And it did. So I stayed there for a few more hours. My contractions went away, and then they sent me back home. So we came back home, and that was Sunday. We came home Sunday. And by Thursday, my contractions had started getting close again. And by Thursday, they were 2 minutes apart. And so I went back out for the hour and the hour drive. And I was like, look, I'm going into labor. Like, are you going to give me a shot again? Or can we just do this and have the baby? And so we ended up going in and getting the C-section done on Thursday, which I was so excited because, guys, I'm that person that whenever the clock is like 10:10 or 11:11, I make a wish. And so I was like, that would be so cute if she was born 11:11 and it would be like my wish, baby. And yeah, anyways, it just felt really cool and lucky. But that was 2 weeks before she was supposed to be born, so I didn't think it would happen. And what do you know? 11:11 came, and my contractions were getting so close that my doctor was scared to send me an hour away and deliver alone out here in nowhere. So he was like, let's do the C-section. So we went in, did the C-section. I'm not going to lie. I don't know how many of you guys have had C-sections before, but you go into this operating room and you go on this table and you have to sit on this table and lean forward, so they can put the shot in your back. And then your whole body gets warm and then numb, and you kind of like flop, and the nurses catch you and position you well on the table. And it was crazy because I've already done this twice. And as I was leaning forward for them to give me the shot, fear just gripped my entire body. And mentally, I started walking myself through, Stephanie, you've done this 2 times before. You're okay. You're safe. This is the doctor you trust. He's already helped you birth 2 of your previous babies. Like, you're okay. You're in good hands. But it was insane how that fear just like gripped me. And I was like, I don't know if I could do this. I don't know if I can have the C-section. I started to panic, and I was able to talk myself down. And I laid on the table. They put the sheet up and started the surgery. And my husband came in the room. And I was at so much peace. So much peace. And it was so neat because the moment that they showed her, okay, I'm gonna cry again. The moment that they lifted her up and showed her to me, for the first time, she's my 4th kid. For the first time, I felt a connection to my baby. I never felt that before. I felt so much love. I was just in awe of her. I just wanted to stare at her and watch her face expressions, and it was the neatest experience. They took her away, washed her down. Oh, I'm sorry. Should have brought tissues. They wheeled me back into the room and placed her in my arms. And I was like, is this how all moms feel? Because it's amazing. I had never felt that before. Oh, I'm so sorry. It was such a reverent experience. It was almost like I was holding this piece of heaven, and I could enjoy it, and I could see the miracle of what it is to bring a child into this world. I could love her. I don't know. It was just it was the most cool experience I've ever had. And I've never had that with any of my kids. And I just watch her face crunch and her cry and her hiccup. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I've already had 3 kids, yet I never noticed those details before. I never felt this love towards the baby before. It was so, so incredible. And, it was just such a beautiful change. And I enjoyed the entire experience. You know, like when it's nighttime and the nurses keep coming in and you're like, really? Can you not let me sleep for 15 minutes? You know, they just keep coming in. Let's check your vitals. Let's push on your uterus. Give it a massage. And you're like, that is not a massage. Let's check on the baby. Like, they just keep coming in. And I even enjoyed that. Like, I just enjoyed the entire thing. I enjoyed being checked on. I enjoyed holding her. I enjoyed every part of it. And it was just, it has been such a crazy blessing. So she has been here with us for a week now. And I am still just over the moon, excited and connected. And it is the neatest experience I've ever had. And I'm like, oh man, so if you have ever experienced trauma, if you have ever experienced postpartum depression, know that there's hope and that you can have a kid where you actually enjoy it. I did not think that was possible, especially after having 3 and it getting worse every time. It is possible. I wish it was like, pray more and here you go, or read your scriptures more and now you're happy. It's not. You need to find help, whatever that help is for you. For me, it was hypnotherapy, and it was incredible. And if any of you guys want to know the 2 hypnotherapists that I love and recommend, let me know and I will give you their info, because it's life-changing. But if for somebody else, if that's medication, take medication. If for you it's oils, use oils. Like, whatever it is, realize it's not just a hope and a prayer and more courage or more faith or more anything. You need help and you can get it, and you can have a kid that you actually look forward to having. You can have a kid that you enjoy. You can have a birth experience that is beautiful and that you love. And I am so excited to be able to sit here and say that, because that's something I hoped for and wished for, and I was finally able to experience. So really, really neat. Super neat. I told my husband, so because of insurance, I wanted to tell you guys this part too. Because of insurance, we were only able to stay in the hotel for 2 nights. So I was like, you know what? Let's get a hotel and heal at a hotel instead of having, going home and then me feeling guilty. I don't know if any other mom feels like that, but as soon as I'm home, I'm like, I know I need to stay in bed and rest, but there's dishes there that need to be done. There's laundry, I just feel like I have to work and help out. And so to be at a hotel and have, be away from my house, be away from my kids, it was the most stress-free, guilt-free, resting ever. In fact, I wish I would have stayed longer. We stayed at the hotel for 3 nights and it was amazing. And some of you guys, your question was if I had done this with every pregnancy. No, this was the first pregnancy I had ever done this with. And if we have more kids, that's how I'm doing it from here on out. Going to the hospital and then staying at a hotel for at least 3 nights, if not more, because it was so amazing. And as we were packing up, getting ready to leave and come home, I told my husband, I was like, I am so proud of myself. And Alex, my husband, he was like, yeah, you did great. Great C-section. Great job, you. And I was like, thanks, but that's not what I'm meaning. And he's like, what do you mean? And I go, not only has this pregnancy been so freaking hard, but I am just so proud of myself, because this really has been, 7-8 years in the making of going from extreme trauma and depression to getting on this side, and finding paths and experiencing all this. But I was like, 3 years ago when I knew we were supposed to have another baby, I prayed for help and I was able to find it. And I worked really hard on working on myself, going to hypnotherapy sessions, trying to to find ways to change and find and try to heal myself. And I know that God was there every step of the way. I need a lot of help. But I was just so proud that I was able to walk that path, and then be able to have this amazing experience. So anyways, that is her birth story. And so sorry that took a little bit longer than I was thinking, but I wanted to show you guys her birth story is nothing amazing unless you know the before and know all the pain and the heartache and the trauma and the sadness and the hopelessness, and then to be able to have her and be on the other side of that. Oh my goodness. So incredible and so amazing. And so here she is, a week old today. She was born 7 pounds, 7 ounces, which I thought was a pretty good size for 2 weeks early. But I was like, you're smaller than my preemie. She's my only kid that's fit in newborn clothes, and I only have 3 newborn outfits because they were given to me. I've never bought any because I've never had any kids fit in it. So she's just wearing the same 3 clothes. And then what else? Her name's Zoey Lorraine. Lorraine is my grandma's middle name. I love my grandma. Well, she's passed, but I love her. She's so amazing. And Zoey, I just felt like we needed to name her Zoey. And I was like, okay. And then I looked it up, and the definition of Zoey means life. And as soon as I read that Zoey means life, I started bawling because I was like, I feel like I'm crying all over the place. I feel like I did get my life back. And so to name her life, and have her be the first kid that I've been able to experience such a change with, and be able to enjoy, I really do feel like I finally have life. And so anyways, it just felt so fitting that that's her name. So yeah, that is the story. Whoosh. I wish.
All right, so now we're going to do our 8-month update. I don't know, Zoey, how are you feeling? Are you pretty happy? I wanted to tell you guys about our 8th month update, and I honestly think it's best described in this story. So 2 weeks ago, Zoey and I, it was just us in the house, and I had made a chocolate smoothie for myself for breakfast, and I could tell she really wanted some. So we sat on the floor, and I took a spoon, and I was spooning her chocolate smoothie. And as I was spooning her chocolate smoothie, I would then go to drink mine. And as I was drinking, she was like, ah, like she already wanted more. Anyways, I don't know why, but we just started laughing. And so she's sitting on our floor in the kitchen. I'm sitting on the floor in the kitchen, and we're just staring at each other, sipping chocolate smoothie, laughing so hard. And after about 3 minutes of laughing, I looked at her and I just started to bawl. And I started to cry because I realized at that moment, like, it was so simple, right? We're just on our kitchen floor. The kitchen wasn't clean, right? The dishes weren't done. It was such a simple moment where we were just sitting on the floor eating smoothie together and laughing. And I had this moment where I realized, like, this is the mom I've always wanted to be. A mom who is present with her kids, a mom who loves being a mom, and who takes joy in simple things. And I've never been able to do that with my other kids. And at this moment, staring at my little baby, just looking at me and smiling, I took out my phone. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'll show you the picture. I took out my phone and snapped a picture of Zoey because I never wanted to forget this moment. It was such a fun moment of just her and I having fun, laughing together, and me realizing that I'm there. I have finally, not saying that I'll always be the mom I've always wanted to be, but at that moment, I was the mom I've always dreamed of being. A mom who was fun, a mom who was in the moment and enjoying it and laughing with her kids. And it was one of the most amazing moments I think I've had all these 8 months. It was absolutely incredible. And so what's our 8-month update? It's going great. Is motherhood hard? Are there nights like last night where I don't sleep, Missy, because someone wakes up so many times? Yes. Are there moments where I get frustrated with my kids or sad or disappointed? Yes. But are there moments where I'm happy, where I'm able to be in the present and enjoy them? Yes. I can honestly say these last 2 years since having that hypnotherapy done have been the best 2 years of being a mom I've ever experienced. I honestly love it. And I am so grateful. I'm so grateful that I get to be their mom and get to experience this. 8th month update. It's going awesome. And I am so excited. And if you are going through postpartum depression, I want you to know that you can get here too. It might not be easy and it might not be fast. This journey for me, I was in postpartum depression and PTSD for 7 years. Okay? And it took me quite a few tries to find something that worked for me. But if you keep at it, I promise that you can become the mom that you've always wanted to be. You can have fun with your kids. You can enjoy them. You can love this journey and it can be good. And so, anyways, I'm so excited. Thank you for listening. I hope this gave you hope, gave you peace, and gave you something to look forward to. And if you know of a friend who is struggling with this, please pass this on. Anyways, I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye. Zoey. Zoey.